Turn it up and up and up. We want it louder. Up and up and up. Turn it up and up and up. We want it louder. Up and up and up. We're gonna get the music rocking, gonna get the bodies jumping, wanna get the party pumping round here. We're gonna get the walls shaking with the noise we will be making, gonna get the party pumping round here. Saying hey, hey, cheers, we fear no beer. To all my brothers, sisters, and here we say hey, hey, cheers.
Was specifically asking for me to be back. I think they were more excited for you to be back, and I'm just really happy to be back along for the ride, man. It's great to be back on here with you, and we're gonna have a lot of fun.
This is what it's all about, right? We're a couple guys that love sports, love hockey, and we're just gonna have some fun. Totally stoked to be bringing you the Smoke Show on the FHN network. We stream live on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. All you have to do is search for the FHN network, the Smoke Show with Dark Eye and Drury. You can find us. You're probably watching us right now. I see a bunch of you already tuned into Twitter. That's fantastic. You picked a great time to tune in because tonight we've got the one and only Paul Bissonette, Biz Nasty, the one and only Spittin' Chicklets, Pink Whitney. He's going to be our first guest, and we're coming off with fire right away.
Not a big deal. It's going to be unbelievable, man. I can't wait to talk to Biz. I've been listening to Chicklets basically since they started. I mean, like, well before they were even associated with Barstool, like back when RA and Wit were doing it, well before Biz even jumped on. So really excited to have Biz on. Obviously, there's a lot going on. They're up to a whole bunch of great, interesting stuff, as they always seem to be. And obviously there's going to be some touchy things to touch on with him. In terms of the Arizona Coyotes, his beloved team, some negative press for sure, but very excited to dig into that with Biz.
I think Matt, you need to mute your mic there, Matt.
We're catching a bit of our producer's speed, I think. That's okay. There we go.
Well, that's why we iron these things out before we get Biz on. That's for sure. But hey, you're going to have that first show going live. This is fantastic. And you know what? Like you said, there is a lot of stuff going on there in Arizona. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what you were talking about. I was kind of trying to listen to you over top of the playback we were getting there. But yeah, it's an interesting time in hockey. They've got a little struggles with everything with Mitch Miller going on down there. And, it's a tough one for sure.
Yeah, we'll dig definitely heavy into it with Biz, but I mean, obviously, the Coyotes coming out and cutting ties with them, and I definitely think that the public backlash and the public pressure definitely caused that because, originally when they drafted him and, for any of our viewers who maybe don't know what we're talking about really quick, I mean, if you've been under a rock in the hockey world, I don't know how you haven't heard about this, probably the biggest story in hockey, but the Coyotes used their first pick in the draft this year. It wasn't until the fourth round to draft a troubled young man, I think is fair to say, named Mitchell Miller, who was convicted in juvenile court when he was 14 of racially and physically abusing a black classmate who was mentally disabled. It's just unbelievably heinous situation. I can't even believe I have to say that. Yeah. But that's the situation. And basically they drafted him. They got a ton of backlash over it. He has received a ton of backlash over the behavior and the seeming lack of improved behavior. And then the other day, the Coyotes, I believe last Thursday, officially cutting ties with him. Rumor is he's going to be heading to the KHL, who will take anybody to play hockey, it seems. But yeah, that's essentially in a nutshell the situation. Biz, of course, is the radio color man for the Arizona Coyotes, whom he finished his career with in the NHL. And we'll dig into that with him, but there's a lot of other stuff to dig into as well, specifically with that franchise. And of course we don't have to be all negative with Biz. Of course we can talk about his general thoughts on free agency, of course, the Maple Leafs, who I'm sure he grew up watching, being from Welland. And there's just a ton of, great things to touch on in hockey that aren't negatively associated with his Coyote.
Well, yeah, we'll save some of that for when Biz does come on. But speaking of free agency, I got to ask you, you're a diehard Caps fan. For those of you, those of our viewers, our listeners that don't already know, what do you think of your King Hendrick signing? King Hendrick signing.
I mean, I'm first of all, I am continuing to mourn the loss of Braden Holtby. I'm not, you know, I
You
know.
had to know that was coming, though. I mean,
Yeah, you know, for probably 2 years now, I've kind of wondered how are they going to get him under the cap. And well, and I mean, when COVID hit and, you know, everything came out that it was going to be a flat cap, I mean, that killed it right there. So it's really sad to see Holtby go. He's the greatest goalie in franchise history. I know a lot of people are down on him because of his stat line the last couple of years. I still think he's mighty capable of putting together a number of good seasons still. But yeah, you know, as he goes out the door, and we've got the young kid Ilya Samsonov, who I've been really high on since we drafted him. Henrik Lundqvist is the ideal type of goaltender, in my opinion, to bring in. A cheap deal, a guy who's ultra competitive, wants to win, desperate for a Stanley Cup, and he's joining a team that still has a good enough core to do that. We've seen them do it recently. They're going to load up and try and do it again. They've made some changes, and I think Henrik Lundqvist, everybody's talking about how, oh, he's a great mentor for Samsonov. Yeah, that's true. He's one of the greatest goalies of his generation, maybe of all time. I don't know what your thoughts are on Henrik Lundqvist. I certainly think he's one of the best goalies of the generation, certainly. This guy's competitive, man. Like, he's not going to go into Washington and go, yeah, I'll back him up and I'll start 30 games or something. Like, he wants to start.
absolutely.
And how much gas he has left in the tank, I don't know. He hasn't been super injury prone the last few years, so I'm pretty excited about it. I think he's the right kind of guy to teach Samsonov, but also push the team past just being a mentor, if you will.
Well, I can tell you, listen, not to pat myself on the back, but there was conversations a couple of weeks before free agency hit. Where's Lundqvist going? If you go back and scroll through my Twitter feed, you'll see the dark guy said, bank on it, take it to the bank. Lundqvist is going to be with the Washington Capitals. And it's very simple. He's the perfect fit. You've got Ilya Samsonov, who's proven in a small sample size that he's an NHL goaltender. You've got a guy like Henrik Lundqvist that can come in and spell him for 20, 30 games, however much you want to use Hendrick to keep Ilya fresh. I don't know if he's really needing a whole bunch of mentorship. He seems like a pretty mature kid. He's got the game to prove it already. I just think it was a no-brainer for Lundqvist to head over to Washington, get that one last true kick at the can to bring home that cup. What do I think of Lundqvist? I think he's borderline to first ballot Hall of Famer, cup or not. So
yeah, I agree.
There's not a whole lot you can say about the guy to argue against me. That's going to convince me that, he shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. So perfect fit. Talking about free agency, though, yeah, if I don't bring up the Leafs sooner or later, people are going to ask me if I'm sick or dying or something. So
yeah,
let's
talk about it.
How about Kyle Dubas? Okay, Kyle Dubas has haters all over the internet. And I'm going to be honest, when the Leafs went with Kyle Dubas over Mark Hunter, I was not a fan. I wanted Mark Hunter as GM. I think a lot of the fan base did. But come on. Everybody asked, how is he going to upgrade the D? How is he going to get tougher? How is he going to do this with no cap space? Well, I think he answered that question. We brought in Wayne Simmons. We brought in Brody. We brought in Joey Anderson, who I think is being overlooked in all of this as an insignificant ad. But I think if it comes down to it and he needs to fill a lineup spot, people are going to start to like him real quick. Jumbo Joe. Brought back Spezza. All on pennies. And people were wondering, how is Dubas going to do this? Well, you know what? If he didn't gain some fans this offseason, I don't know what else he has to do. Good on Dubas. Kudos to addressing almost every need we had and doing it under the cap.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like basically every move he made. I I don't not like any of them. Yeah, you're right. I think that it's interesting to note too that he basically did all that for what Kapanen and Janssen cost on the cap.
Absolutely.
I mean, you look outside of the 4 odd million that they're giving to TJ Brody. I mean, all the forwards and the other defenders that they added, and all the shuffling they've done with adding some goaltending depth as well in Aaron Dell and fan favorite Michael Hutchison.
Wow.
He's basically done all that for the cost of what those two players are. And I know a lot of, I live in Ontario. There are a lot of Leaf fans. I am one of the rare few, it seems, that doesn't cheer for the Leafs. And, that's fine. But I have a lot of friends who are
No,
like, I
it's not
can't
fine.
believe.
It's not.
Well, I took the advice of Fleetwood Mac. I went my own way.
All right.
Now, I have a lot of friends who are like, I can't believe they got rid of Kapanen. I can't believe they got rid of Janssen. And listen, there's no disrespect to those two players. It's just that those two guys, not only do they play a position and offer things offensively that I think are a dime a dozen, what they gave the team on special teams in their rare appearances on it, Janssen played some penalty kill. I know Kapanen would occasionally as well. Defensively, which is where I think everyone is in agreement this team needed to improve on the most. They don't offer you anything lesser than what even a 42-year-old Joe Thornton, or certainly I don't know what the most negative perception of Wayne Simmons could be, run down, injured a lot. Sure. Those guys are going to play way, way better in Toronto's defensive zone than Janssen or Kapanen. Now, I'm not saying that those two players are bad players. They're not. I bet you Kapanen will have a great year. I could see him scoring 25. He's going to get an opportunity to play with two of the best centers in NHL history. And Janssen's going into a young, rebuilding Devils team with two pretty good centers as well. But based on their cap, based on some things that they needed, based on the fact they had to change the complexion of the way that team plays on a night-to-night basis, I just don't think the loss of those guys is anything to cry over. I really don't. I don't know what your opinion is, Jason. But
here's where, first of all, Kapanen is one guy I would have liked to have held on to if we could. But the simple fact of the matter is, money has to go out for money to come in. So that's the bottom line. We had to lose somebody. We had to lose a couple people. Janssen, I wasn't heartbroken over, no disrespect. Thought he was a great kid, great hockey player, did a lot for the Marlies on their Calder Cup run. Unfortunately, that success wasn't able to transfer over as much to the big boys, to the NHL, to the Leafs. My biggest thing here is I've seen a lot of detractors about Joe Thornton and that signing and saying, oh, well, he's 41, 42 years old. What's he bringing to the team? Here it is, real simple. One, I will take a Joe Thornton on the twilight of his career over a healthy Frederick Gauthier any day of the week.
For sure.
That's an instant upgrade.
For sure.
Second of all, the biggest argument I got was we tried it with Patrick Marleau. It didn't work. Well, here's the big difference between a Joe Thornton and a Patrick Marleau. Patrick Marleau came into that dressing room. I loved having him. I loved seeing him in the blue and white. But you could tell from his social media presence, his interviews, he was trying to be like the cool uncle to Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and William Nylander. He was trying to, be that little mentorship role. Whereas Joe Thornton, I think, is going to have the ability to come in that dressing room, and he's got the desire. I don't think anybody in the league wants to win a cup more than Joe Thornton right now. If there's anybody in the league that wants a cup more than Thornton, maybe Lundqvist, but that's not. Joe Thornton's going to have the difference that Patrick Marleau maybe did, where Thornton's going to be able to come into that room and say they're dogging it through the first two periods of a game. I think Joe Thornton's going to have more of a presence where he can come into that room and say, hey, listen, you guys want to win a cup? Time to get your head out of your asses. Where I don't think Marleau would have played that role. And I just think if Jumbo Joe comes into that room after a bad game or after a bad period and he speaks up, I think people are going to listen.
I completely agree. And I mean, like, to be fair somewhat to Patty Marleau, who, I mean, let's be honest, he's probably a Hall of Famer as well.
Absolutely.
He doesn't need a pat on the back or anything, but to be fair to him, like the experiment worked initially. Like I believe he scored 22 goals his first year with the Leafs. Then it started to kind of come apart. He's getting older, and really the biggest issue was his cap hit. That's really what it was. And that extra year that Uncle Lou gave to him, that was really the only thing that would cause him any detractors. Now, you're right. And the difference between Marleau and Thornton is that age-old argument about, leadership and what leadership is best. Well, we've seen it across sports. It's different for every team. Did the Leafs benefit certainly from some of the things that Marleau was able to give to their young guys, like Matthews, Marner, to a degree Nylander, who's still got some work to do? Yeah, but are the Leafs a team that maybe would benefit more from a more vocal guy who just, let's be honest, really doesn't have a care in the wind? Joe Thornton will say whatever he thinks to the media, to everybody. I can think of a couple different interview clips where he went a little off the rails, and maybe the Leafs benefit more from that. But it's one of those things where not one style of leadership is going to work, especially in a sport like hockey, where you've got 20 guys playing every night. You've got 23-man rosters. Everybody's got a different personality. Like Austin Matthews is not going to carry himself the same way that Frederik Andersen carries himself, right? But you can win with different characters in the locker room, and I don't see a downside in Thornton joining up. And I know, Darka, you can dig into this and maybe your thoughts on this. As soon as they signed him, I said he's going to be ideally the William Nylander whisperer. And I can harken back to a time when my team was still struggling to put it together in the playoffs. The 1 year, and it's the best we ever saw him play, but we had a troubled winger on the Capitals for an awful long time as well, who had just as much, if not arguably more talent than William Nylander, and Alex Semin. This is a guy that scored 40 goals. He consistently had one of the best wrist shots I've ever seen. He was a phantom in the playoffs. And 1 year, the Capitals traded for Jason Arnott, and Semin, like, something just clicked for him. He was unbelievable. Now, the team still failed and didn't win that year, but like, he came alive. And Jason Arnott everyone referred to him as the Semin whisperer. And I think that Joe Thornton is the Nylander whisperer. He can take this young man under his wing a little bit and get him to that next level. William Nylander's already a really good player offensively. I know analytics people, and I appreciate analytics, are going to throw a lot of numbers at you. Oh, he's already a top-end right winger. Yeah, offensively he is. There's a whole other 140 feet of ice behind you. So. And when he's on the ice, he can switch off and not grind, and that can be a problem. I think Joe Thornton is going to do wonders for William Nylander's game. I don't know if that's, in the same line of thinking that you have.
Well, let's be honest here. Hey, Matt, we're catching a little feedback off your mic there still, buddy. So, yeah, let's be honest here. Joe Thornton, hey, he's still one of the best passers in the league, right? There's no two ways around it. This is a guy who's...
I'm trying to get something else up and running, too.
Hey, Matt, your mic's still on, bud. Matt, your mic's on.
Got those technical issues rocking and rolling here. It's all good.
Episode 1, eh? 100%. Nylander, I agree with you. Maybe Thornton's the guy that's going to finally be able to convince Nylander how to play on both sides of the puck. But you take Joe Thornton, Jason Spezza as your 3-4 centers. That is absolutely fantastic. I don't care what anybody says that they're getting old, they're slowing down. You're getting into a playoff grind, and you can, fight line matchups with a Joe Thornton or a Jason Spezza to win a big draw in your own end. That's a tough billing, especially when the 1-2 guys are Austin Matthews and John Tavares. So that's something that Toronto finally has all the way up and down the lineup, is that depth at center. You got a guy like Thornton who can still be a power play quarterback for you, distribute that puck in the offensive zone. And hopefully, I think the biggest part will be in that dressing room where he can get through to guys like Nylander, and I agree. I see the argument almost daily on Twitter, on social media, the Nylander lovers and the Nylander haters. Well, I'm like, you know what? I get it. He's on pace. He was on pace for over a 30 goal season this year. He was doing fantastic offensively. But you fast forward now to the qualifying round against Columbus, and the amount of times I saw him lay up on a puck to avoid a hit, or the amount of times he didn't take that extra stride to win a puck battle, like that's not going to win you a qualifying round, let alone a playoff round. Somebody somewhere along the line needs to get through to this guy that says, you know what, the name on the front is a whole lot more important than the name on the back. And maybe Joe Thornton's that guy.
Yeah, that's certainly the hope. And I mean, again, I like William Nylander. Like, I don't want, the Nylander lovers to think that, I'm shredding the kid. He's clearly an extremely talented player. But I've said this to you numerous times over our friendship and the time we've been watching hockey together. Like, where the Leafs are right now reminds me, I've seen this movie. I saw it for a decade. It reminds me so much of what the Capitals went through. So much scoring talent. Like, yeah, they can hang 6 or 7 on you, but they'll give up 4 or 5. And when the offense dries up and teams played them really hard and erased Alex Semin, erased Mike Green, erased Ovi, all of a sudden they lose 2-1 to the New York Rangers or the Penguins all the time. And all of a sudden the 50-goal seasons and the 110-point seasons, like, they don't matter anymore. And effort is where, like, I don't expect William Nylander to come back and turn into Eric Lindros and start leveling people all over the ice. But and certainly his coaching staff, for the amount of money he gets paid fairly handsomely, expects to lay a hit in the corner, to not back off of a hit, to go for a loose puck with some more dogged determination. I don't think that those are, out of the realm of fair to ask for. And hopefully Thornton can kind of get him into that gear. And like, Thornton all around is a classic low risk, high reward situation. He's making the league minimum. If he legitimately can't play and guys are blowing by him and embarrassing him, fine. It was a $700,000. It's not your money. It was a $700,000 experiment that didn't work out for a guy who's earned that type of recognition in the NHL. If it works out, and you mentioned the power play, I think he could set up Austin Matthews, in that opposite side of where Ovechkin lets one-timers go. I think he could find him with some sneaky passes. Like, his ability to pass isn't going to diminish. His speed and, how healthy he can stay over a season. Sure, he's 42, but his ability to pass could be a really sneaky find for $700,000 on the power play. I'm really excited to see how he looks on the power play.
Yeah, and like you said, it was low risk, high reward. Obviously, a lot was made about bringing in Zach Bogosian as well.
So in what sense? Like, in a negative sense?
I had seen a lot of people saying, and this was more so not so much Leaf fans, but Leaf haters that are saying, oh, well, what's he going to do? Well, you know what? Here's what he's going to do. He pushes Martin Marincin down in the depth chart. Bogo is not playing a full season. He's not going to be in the lineup every night, but he's some depth with experience, with a Stanley Cup under his belt, that if you get into some injury trouble, you need a little extra leadership, he might just provide that. And I mean, Brody, well, we finally have a pairing for a D partner for Morgan Riley. So kudos again, Kyle Dubas. Thank you for everything you've done, because he hit every item on the checklist, and he did it within the restraints that he had. The only laugh I get now is the Habs fans that say Montreal is better off than Toronto after their offseason.
I don't agree with that right now. I mean, certainly salary cap wise, sure. Montreal's an interesting team, just in that they're like they're like the definition of a bubble team. Like you look at their roster and you're like, it's so easy to pick out bright spots. I love Nick Suzuki. I had the pleasure of covering him for a long time in the OHL, both in Owen Sound and Guelph. I think he's going to be a superstar. I really do. I think he wears 37. He loves Patrice Bergeron. He is a Bergeron clone. I think he's going to be a superstar. But then you look, Kotkaniemi, I think he's going to be a solid player as well. I don't know that he rises but beyond being a second line center, but great. If that's your top 2 centers in Montreal for the next 10 years, awesome. I would sign off on that. Sure. But their depth scoring is still not unreal. Their blue line is pretty solid, to be fair. Like Shea Weber has still got plenty of game. He has rewritten the PK Subban trade narrative. Jeff Petrie is one of the most underrated players in the NHL, in my opinion. I think he's an unbelievably good player. And they've got 2 good goalies who take up a good amount of cap space, but what do they care? They still have a ton of cap space. But there's just not enough there to convince me that they have enough depth to take out, team. And this is coming off of them taking out Pittsburgh in the qualifier, which that was an all-time horrendous showing by the Pittsburgh Penguins. I cannot believe how bad they played.
Well, the one caveat here is when you got Carey Price, he could steal a series on his own.
He makes teams look really, really good.
Josh Anderson, would I have liked to have seen him in a Leafs uniform? 100% at the right price. At the right price. Do I really think Montreal is leaps and bounds above what they were last year? Not even close. So
I'll slightly disagree. I think they're better on paper than they were last year. I wouldn't say a gargantuan amount. I think they're better. Josh Anderson is an example to me of I'll call it a medium risk, high reward, because he's been very injury prone his first few years in the league. He had that great 20-goal season for Columbus. My cousin's the assistant coach there, loves Josh Anderson. Couldn't say enough good things about him. He's a gritty player. He gets Montreal a ton of what they need, size and grit. He can fight. He can hit. Can he stay healthy? And can he justify that $5.5 million cap hit and consistently pop in 20 goals, 50 points, a bunch of hits, some penalty kill work? If he can stay healthy and produce 20 plus goals every year, great deal. If not, and he's hurt all the time, tough one.
Yeah, well, I don't mean to cut you off, Ryan, but speaking of gritty, speaking of nasty, we got our first guest on the first episode of The Smoke Show. You know him as Biz Nasty. He's number 1 in your playbooks, number 1 in your hearts. Paul Bissonette, welcome to the show, brother.
Can you guys see me already?
We can. Well, I've seen it looks like Dr. Dre Beats headphones or something.
We can hear you.
Oh, here it goes. Okay, there we are. We're live. All right. I had this other.
Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Yeah, Biz.
Ryan, Jason, what is going on? Should I refer to you as Dark Guy or Jason?
Dark Guy,
either or.
Biz, whatever.
Okay.
You can call me a jackass. I'll still answer. So.
You told me we had to keep this PG, and you're dropping a jackass bomb off the hop. What the heck?
That's still family friendly. There, I think I heard.
It's enough.
I heard Jackass in a Disney movie once. I think so.
That's fair. Absolutely.
Hey, first and foremost, congratulations on the show, pal. I mean, I know that the come up has been very fast. Started from the bottom, now we're here. But it's an honor being one of your first guests on your first episode, first show. I don't know what you guys are calling it.
Yeah, so we're calling it The Smoke Show. Ryan and I, we had our gig, as you know, on TSN 1050 there for a while too. That was the Dark Eye Show. We had a lot of fun with that. And we just kind of decided, we took a year off and now we're doing our own thing. And, I appreciate you, Biz, for being here and agreeing to do this. We've been talking a little bit back and forth over the last year or two, and I've gotten to know you a little bit. You're a hell of a guy. So thank you so much.
Quick tire pump. Hey, quick tire pump. Hey, that's why I come on these shows. Yeah. A little intro. Nice. Maybe don't go over the stats though. That hurts me. Maybe,
we won't bring up your stat. That's fine. A lot of fight wins though. We can bring up the fighting stat. Couple
losses too, though. and the fake teeth and
Listen,
a couple conkies.
the only stats we need to talk about are your million followers, the views you get on Spittin' Chicklets every
Yes.
episode, and your Pink Whitney sales that are through the roof. So
It's been a fun ride, gentlemen, and yeah, it's a cool little. Nowadays, I guess you can bring it wherever you want. Given with social media, you don't really have to rely on big networks. So it's taken. Although we are on Barstool, who has taken on a mind of its own as well, but it's been fun. It's been great to be able to gravitate towards something to keep my interest in post career and just keep life moving on, boys.
Biz, you've been doing an unreal, sorry to cut you off, Jason. Like,
Yep.
you've been doing an unreal job of this. Like, you're, when I think of social media pioneers in hockey, you're always the first name that comes to mind. Like, even when you were still playing on your original Biz Nasty account, like, you were such a funny follow. You were different. You were basically doing things on social media that no other players were really doing. Like, you were interacting with fans. You were being hilarious. You were being yourself, really, is I think what a lot of fans appreciated. What's this journey been like for you? I mean, you know, you start with that, then you hook up with your friends With Dog and RA and Mike Grinnell, obviously, the Quinn Hughes lookalike. You guys have this great show. You jump on Barstool. You got the vodka going. Like, what has this been like for you to just see this explode after your career?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all started with Twitter, and that just kind of took on a mind of its own. And Scotty Upshaw, he was the one who recommended I got on it, but I really didn't understand what it was. I heard a lot of people was like, you just like really update where you're going around. And I think maybe that's even how it started originally. But then you could, you know, I found out you could, you know, maybe interact with fans, show your personality a little bit more, joke around about current events. I think the social line has changed drastically, of course, since when I started Twitter to now. And just overall, just I think that I've grown up and I'm trying to, you know, be a little bit more aware of people's feelings and maybe what's being said. Although sometimes the wires do cross and you fire off certain things. I got an issue recently with a guy, but all in all, it's been fun. The interaction with the fans, of course, has been awesome. And given the fact that I wasn't really relied upon on the ice, it was, I guess, a way to entertain them in my sort of way.
Well, so I don't want to, you know, turn this whole bit into that interaction with this guy. And I debated long and hard whether I was going to bring it up because I really don't know the other person all that well. But
yeah, me
you know,
neither.
your wires didn't get crossed. The accusations that were being made about you were completely unwarranted, unjustified, and out of left field. So I still haven't decided whether I'm going to say the guy's name or not because, like I said,
yeah, let's not. Because we'll probably mess it up. But it's just odd. Like it's and sometimes when it's coming from people who just genuinely don't listen to the podcast, it's like, hey, listen, like I get that we're on a platform that's a little bit polarizing, and there's some things have been done on that side of the company where I might not even agree with. But ultimately, like we're trying to do what's, you know, we're trying to show that as far as social issues are concerned, we want to be at the front of it. When everything happened with the Black Lives Matter movement and George Floyd, you know, being murdered and all that whole situation, like we were, you know, we were in a spot where, like, you know, we don't feel necessarily we can speak for that side of it, but we wanted to shut down our podcast to show, you know, there's some light that needs to be shed on a major issue here. And just for him to say what he did, it just came as a shock where it's like, listen, maybe there's some things I've said in the past and I've crossed the line a little bit, but those types of things, no. So it just gets a little bit tiresome, kind of fighting them off all the time. And then sometimes, you know, if one with a decent enough voice comes barking, I just like to shoot it down. And that's where you get a little bit of my old Twitter stuff where I'll just let it fly, boys.
Well, listen, Paul, don't ever apologize for defending yourself and setting the record straight because truth be told, the way you handled it, I think was absolutely, you know, it was fine. Sooner or later, you know, you poke the bear, you're going to get bit.
Yeah.
So, and that's what happened to this young gentleman. He should take the loss and move on with his day.
Take the L. We've all had them. We talked about a few at the start of the show about me. So yeah, but let's talk about some happier stuff.
Yeah, like you're right, Biz. Like it's kind of funny. I mean, just obviously, yeah, for some people, Barstool's very polarizing. But
Yeah.
like I've been listening to the podcast even before you became a permanent member, like when RA and Wit started it.
Yeah.
And like all of your credit, the pod, first of all, is hilarious. It's a joy to listen to. And you
Thank you.
guys have always just been like right down the middle in terms of, especially later on, as you've said things have changed in society. You guys have tackled it right on the nose. You've never hidden from any of those things, and you've addressed it in, I would venture to say, an extremely mature and positive way for everybody. Like, I commend you guys for the job you're doing on the show, really.
Yeah,
Like,
and just to briefly touch on it, like I don't think, I get uncomfortable talking in those situations because I think there are better people that can, but it kind of
Sure.
comes with the territory and the fact that, like, I guess we have a big enough audience where we want to make sure people are, knowing what's going on out there, and ultimately we want to be on the right side of things. Going back to as far as RA and Grinnell and Witt and how this whole thing started. I mean, when you asked me to come on the show, I'm thinking, you're a hardcore Leafs fan. RA is a hardcore Boston Bruins fan. And there's some similarities there. And it's nice because we get different voices on the pod where we have like the lunch pail hardcore fan aspect. We have Witt, who is an incredible player, played with Sid, snapped enough passes tape to tape, of course, to add that credibility to the podcast. And then, of course, Grinelli behind the scenes, who's great at editing and really running the mega ship as far as social media and making sure everything gets put out there. So I am very blessed to have such great teammates, and they have made my post-playing career an unbelievable experience so far.
Well, I got to tell you, Spit and Chickless is exactly what every single person like Ryan and I aspire to be, right? The success you guys have had, the way you've basically changed the industry a little bit in your own right. You guys are kind of trailblazers, and we're just trying to follow in your footsteps. So, but you did mention I'm a Leafs fan, so I got to ask your opinion, Biz. What do you think? What do you think of Dubas's moves this offseason?
I'm very excited for you, my friend. I knew we'd be stroking off the Leafs at some point while I came on here, but I'm very optimistic, and I like the additions. Wayne Simmons, of course, and some people have been a little bit critical about the fact that, well, he's just replacing Kyle Clifford, and Joe Thornton's going to be probably a fourth line center, but I think that the dynamic of having those guys around might calm the other guys down, and they'll be able to excel to where they need to in order for them to advance and at least get past the first round and make a little run, and who knows, maybe go on and win the Stanley Cup. I really feel for these young guys being in such a difficult market where, you're essentially a New York Yankee. I mean, you're in the center of the hockey universe between there and Montreal, and there's just constant criticism. And I know that some is warranted, and I know with the price tag that some of these guys come with and what they're getting paid, that's kind of the nature of the business. I just feel maybe in the atmosphere being in Toronto, it's like to another level. So I wish those guys a lot of success. I've befriended Austin Matthews quite a bit with him, with the Arizona connection, of course. No tampering going on, by the way, guys. There's been no talks of him moving over to the Arizona Coyotes. Yeah, I wish them well. And I think that with those additions, I think that this year there will be some positive mojo. And who knows, maybe we'll see Joe Thornton get 4 tucks and whip it out.
Well, I'm going to say, now that you mentioned Austin, how many bottles of Pink Whitney am I going to have to buy to get you to put in a good word for Dark Guy in the Smoke Show?
I'll see what I can do, my friend. I'll see what I can do. You have to get a crate.
If you follow my Instagram, that won't be a problem.
Yeah. Well, I'll go over and kidnap him at his place here in Paradise Valley. I'll bring him over and strap him to this chair so you can get him for the next episode.
I love it, man. Like, well, Biz, let's talk a little bit about Pink Whitney, because holy cow, that's taken on a life of its own too. And I mean, I can't really think of a lot of other podcasts where that's the central part of what the show is. It's a podcast that have a product attached to it that has become so universally loved and really worldwide. Like they're ordering crates of it in Europe. I know they are. My cousin's playing over in Denmark. He's like, I get here,
wow, and
the guys have cases of Pink Whitney already over there. He's like, I was blown away. It's absolutely insane. Just an offhand comment on the there it is, beautiful pink elixir of the gods, Pink Whitney.
I
Elixir. I'm stealing that.
Paul,
Steal it.
Paul, it would look one of those would look pretty good right there.
Yeah,
Hey,
The most-
maybe we could get a little sponsor in with your show. I know. Yeah, those
Ooh, that's
those are nice.
exciting. That would be dangerous for me because I would be burying more than I already am. But I remember like when it launched, Biz, like you couldn't get your hands on it. I had friends driving across the border pre-COVID just to buy like 5 or 6 bottles and bring them back and pay duties on them. It's absolutely crazy what's happened with this stuff.
Yeah, I think just like with the podcast in general, like a lot of things have happened organically, given the fact that we had the New Amsterdam presenting sponsorship. And, you know, the first thing in the first show when they came on as presenting sponsor, they said, talk about what you like with your vodka. And Whit described this drink that he always likes to have on the golf course and after his round called the Pink Whitney. And all of a sudden, everybody was just sending these pictures of them drinking pink lemonade and vodka. And then we thought, why not create our own? And the way I would describe it, it's kind of like hopefully it gets to the point where it's hockey's Arnold Palmer. And, you know, our show was created to show hockey fans all these unique personalities behind the scenes, right? I mean, we talked about RA. That's why, like, when Dark Guy, when you started going viral, it's just like, look at, like, this is awesome. You know, this is like, these are the stories and the funny things that, you know, we like to talk about, not only on the podcast, but like you would in the locker room and after a men's league game. And what do you do? And what are we all doing most of the time? Having a few drinks, sharing these stories. And I think that we just kind of wanted to create our own where, you know, it just kind of becomes like a staple of the pod, which is very on brand for just how we are behind the scenes. So we're very grateful that people have taken a liking to it. I would like it to be a little bit cheaper in Canada, but, you know, with alcohol prices, but in the United States, I think it's like 11 or 12 bucks. And, you know, we just, we want everybody to enjoy it. And also on the flip side of that, given with the popularity it's had, we're talking with New Amsterdam and Gallo and of course the Pink Whitney brand, where we want to start giving back as well. It'd be cool to start doing these like giveaways and getting more fans involved and doing these crazy viral videos in order to keep growing the hockey community and showing the world what it really is about. I mean, you know, there's been, of course, some stories that have came out as late that just like, you know, it puts a little bit of a damper on things, but there's a lot of good people behind the scenes. There are some wonderful people in the hockey world. And that's really what we're trying to represent overall. Absolutely.
Well, I tell you, you definitely have to enjoy it responsibly because it's very tasty.
Oh, it'll sneak up on you. Oh, buddy.
I'm going to say I may or may not have been pink whiteyed once or twice this summer.
Oh yeah. You get blackout. You'll get a hangover the next day. We've had a lot of, and it's only 30% alcohol. So a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I could probably drink a whole bottle and be fine. Next thing you know, you're half a bottle deep and you're texting all your exes and you're
well,
maybe not Dark Guy. But.
Well, I thought it was a pretty clever play on words. The pink white meat.
Yeah.
Off of Whitney's last name. I was like, yeah, that's pretty clever. Yeah, it's happened.
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of collabs. We ended up doing something called the Fizz Nasty, where you mix it with a seltzer, where you dumb it down a little bit. But it's all silly stuff that goes viral, and like I said, it's been a blast.
Yeah. So I do want to get back into a little bit more of hockey, and I wanted to ask you your thoughts on one of the bigger announcements up here that's kind of ping pong back and forth now. So we had our Ontario sports minister go ahead and make the announcement that the OHL would return to their return to play would involve no body contact. Quickly to be shot back by our premier to say, no, if the OHL wants to have some body contact, we'll have to look at it at the time. Do you see any way that they can go back to, you know, a major junior game with no body contact?
No, I'm afraid of the bad habits it would create and maybe affect the development of players. I mean, that might be being hyperbolic about the situation, but I didn't want to necessarily go online or talk about it on the podcast until it got resolved, because when I originally read it, I'm like, well, this doesn't make much sense given the fact that they're going to be bussing together, that they're going to be lining up at face-offs with each other. They're going to be on the bench together. Like, it just overall, and then I forget what player it was. It might've been Mayfield for the Islanders. Am I saying that correctly? Is it Scott Mayfield maybe?
Yeah.
And he was like, how does this make sense? He's like, if there's no body contact and you can't separate the man from the puck, they'll probably be spending more time being in contact, trying to stick check over it, and whether the guy's like kind of pinned up against the wall. So I would imagine that ruling gets changed, and that was just something to get the social media popping.
Yeah, I kind of agree, because like I don't understand. I don't understand how, going face to face for a face off, getting into a puck battle in the corner where you're going to be.
Well, no, actually, they're going to put the glass up, the divider, when the guys are taking draws.
The linesman holds it with one hand and drops the puck with the other hand. Yeah.
Because it's just like, you're saying that split second of contact from a hit is going to be worse off than me pinning a guy in the corner and trying to battle him for the puck for 15, 20 seconds. Like it just,
the guys are going to have disinfectant when taking one-on-ones. They're going to have their stick out. Yeah. So
couple wipes.
But listen, COVID has affected a lot of people, and this has just been a horrible situation as far as the economy is concerned. Of course, lives lost. I know that ultimately everybody's trying to get it right. And I think that ultimately this decision will be overturned. But I did think it was a little bit ludicrous given everything else that's going on, that they would decide that was kind of where things were. I'd say they're better off not even playing.
Yeah, I agree, Biz, because like the whole outrage that came out when Lisa McLeod said that, our sport minister here in Ontario, and she's had some interesting run-ins on social media as well. It's one of those things where there's obviously going to be backlash, but then, no one seems to have a clear science on it. And I mean, based on what I heard and what I heard Peter King, who's an NFL analyst, talking about recently on a podcast, the NFL's, position on it is it's more from prolonged exposure to a teammate, a staff member, whatever, than an instantaneous hit at the line, say between a guard and a defensive tackle. And I agree with you, man. I personally still, and I hate to be a pessimist here, but I cover the junior B, the junior C leagues here and the OHL.
Not a big deal.
And it's great. It's so much fun to do that. I would just rather them not play if they were, for some reason, firm on them not having body contact, and even the rumor of playing 3-on-3, because I don't want this to come across as wrong. That's just not real hockey. I mean, as long as body contact's allowed to be part of the game, playing a short season of 3-on-3 no contact, like you set off the hot, Biz, is going to create bad habits. Like, is a guy going to be able to pot 40 instead of 20 because he's not being hit coming across the blue line?
Well, yeah, I think
it creates a scouting problem too, right?
Yeah, somebody was tweeting that out. They said good luck to the scouts, and I was like, okay, that's a great point as well. So yeah, it's like I said, it's just unfortunate. I think that people are trying to get it right, and this has just been a crazy world the last 8-9 months, boys.
Yeah, it has.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, I can sympathize with the scouting business of it. Being a head scout for the Collingwood Blues here too, it's like I can't even get into a rink if there are kids playing hockey anywhere. It's like I can't even get in to watch them anyway. So it's like, what am I supposed to do? Like
Zoom calls, Zoom interviews. Start your own show. You're on the right path, my friend.
Oh, well, we're trying here. We're trying, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's tough, right? And I mean, Jason, you've been scouting for a long time, specifically at the junior A level, which is, not a joke. And
even before you became like a meme, essentially, you were scouting before that.
Yeah, he was.
No, for myself, actually, no. I didn't start scouting afterwards. Until not long afterwards. But yeah, I've been at this now for 4 years. Started off as a scout with the Aurora Tigers, and things went well, and I ended up over in Collingwood. We're affiliated with the Barrie Colts there in the OHL, so it's a pretty good gig I'm working on here.
Is it a little cliche to go over the whole story? I mean, were you in Washington when the picture was taken?
Yeah, so I guess maybe it's not a little cliche. And
first episode, we got to talk about how you became a viral sensation.
Well, Paul, I think people are tuning in to hear you, not me. That's the problem here.
Okay, well. I'm pretty sure if people are commenting in the chat board, they'd love to hear the story again. Well, because I would love to.
I'll tell you. So it was me and a bunch of buddies. Everybody knows as a Leaf fan how impossible it is to get Leaf tickets during the regular season. Best of times, forget about the playoffs. So Leafs made the playoffs. A bunch of me and my buddies, we started chatting right away, saying the only way we're getting down to a Leafs playoff game is if we go to Washington. So hopped on, looked out last minute. There was a bunch of tickets available in Washington. Me and my buddy said, let's do it. So piled in the Durango there, drove 10 hours straight Friday night from Waterloo, Ontario to Washington.
Couple road pops?
No road pops.
Okay, yeah, keep her PG.
Played it safe.
Once we got there, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. I drove straight while my buddies napped the whole way. I laid down for like half an hour. I was too excited. I said, screw it. We got up, went to a restaurant. We got into the pubs around noon. So yeah, long story short, I had told my buddies that they're going to know we were in Washington. Like, I'm a diehard Leafs fan. I've got an outgoing personality. I said, everybody's going to know we were there. And my friends were immediately like, oh my, what's he going to do? Like, they knew it was going to be epic. So I came up with the whole plan to paint the face, dye the beard. I had the Stanley Cup.
You did it yourself?
The face paint and the beard, yeah. I had a buddy of mine shave the Stanley Cup into a mohawk. I had Go Leafs Go shaved into the back of my head. And there I was, this big blue beast in a sea of red in Washington. So I stood out a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing the picture online. Did they win or lose the game?
They won, capping in double OT.
Oh,
Yeah, that put them to my memory. That put the Leafs up 2-1 in the series.
Tied the series 1-1.
Oh, Leafs choke, shocker.
It was game 2 of the series. Tied it up 1-1.
Oh, did they?
Right. Because then Bozak scored in overtime in game 3, but then what happened?
Oh, we're gonna go through the whole game sheet.
No. I just have such a great memory for things.
But,
like I remember seeing it too and just being like, this guy is gonna be a legend tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
I'm surprised you couldn't get Leafs tickets after that, or did you?
I had a lot easier time getting Leaf tickets after that. So
That's awesome. Right there, it's a win.
when I was on my way home from Washington after it started blowing up, my Twitter was up to like 10,000 followers already on the way home the next day. I got a phone call from the Maple Leafs, or sorry, not a phone call. They messaged me on Twitter and said, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, hopefully going to a Leafs game. And they said,
Dropping the puck.
Well, that would have been nice. I mean, come on. I honestly,
We're putting you up in the Ring of Honor next to Mats and the boys.
Oh my God, yeah.
There was actually a meme of a banner raising, and it was Dark Guy's face on top of Matt Sundin's banner going up to the roof.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, the gentleman's name that did.
Well,
that
Leafs got to celebrate something, and I mean that was probably one of the greatest moments of that whole season.
Yeah, well, and the Leafs were great. Like they gave me tickets to that game. They put me up in a beauty hotel right beside the arena. Then game 4, a well-known radio personality in the Toronto area, John Derringer, reached out to me. He's a diehard Leafs fan, had season tickets his whole life. He said, listen, I want to take Dark Guy to a playoff game. So I ended up going to game 4 with John Derringer.
Unreal.
Game 5 back in Washington, a Leaf fan had won a contest through a major airline that flew him out to the game, and he messaged me out of the blue and was like, hey dude, I won a free trip to Washington. You want to be my +1? And
did you tap out? Or
I did. I was worried, like, I'm like, okay, this one's a little bit strange. I've ended up meeting the guy and he's really cool. And I wish I would have taken the trip, but I was worried I was going to wake up in the middle of the night and he was going to be like staring at me or something, right?
Hey, now you know how David Ayres felt. Remember when he ended up beating the Leafs? Not to bring this up because it was against the Leafs either. I know you got some people probably, but he was just on a crazy media circus after that. So it does get a little bit exhausting as far as like everybody trying to grab on and grab a hold when you do go viral.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was. I think I was on every major network from coast to coast, and in Canada, I was on, the NHL network had me all over on their Twitter and their social media. One of the first interview I did was actually with the Washington Post.
They got you on.
Dan Steinberg comes down and he wants to interview me. And during the game, at this point in time, I had no idea that what was happening outside the rink. I'm a Leafs fan. I'm at a Leafs playoff game. I'm just focusing on it. My phone was blowing up in my pocket, but I wasn't looking at it for the life of me. And
That's awesome, dude.
Dan
To
Spangler,
think
he
that
is,
all this has came from that is so cool. And like I said at the beginning of the show, congratulations on the rise, my friend.
oh, Biz, I appreciate that. And you know what? Honestly, it's something I'm quite proud of. I got a lot of the 15 minutes of fame comments when it happened, but here I am 4 years later, and
Grind, my friend. It's a grind. Keep going.
absolutely. And you know, I
What
was
made
able
you
to
pick
get
Ryan as your co-host here?
Oh no.
default lack of options.
Yeah. There was nobody better.
His memory. It was his memory that did it.
Biz Nasty said no when I asked him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Number two.
It
That's
might be
unbelievable.
my photographic memory that probably plays a part.
No, actually, Ryan is a great guy. We met actually at a
When he sleeps.
Yeah,
That's what
That's
I
how we
say,
joke around, like in the locker room. That's like a
Yeah.
locker room joke. Sorry, Ryan.
absolutely.
I love it.
We met at a charity event for mental health a few years back.
Yes.
And West for Youth. It was an amazing fundraiser in a small community, Listowel, Ontario. There, and we hit it off right away. And when I had my radio show on TSN 1050, I found myself in need of a co-host in the last part of the season, and Ryan jumped on and bailed me out and finished the season off with me, and we had great on-air chemistry. So he was my number one.
Yeah, you do.
When the show, we decided to go ahead with the show.
Well, I tell you what, if I had the Pink Whitney cracked, I would have cheers you guys. So congratulations on teeing this off. I know you guys will have a lot of success. And hey, who knows? Maybe when you guys hit 100, I'll come back on. 100th episode.
That we're gonna pencil that in right now for the anniversary episode, Biz, and
Writing it down.
We're just gonna mark it down now. That's
when I'll have Austin strapped to this seat here too. We'll do a
Yes.
little collab.
If he has to be restrained to stay there, whatever you need to do, I'll approve.
Unreal.
Yeah, we'll go next level with it for sure. Biz, I just want to ask you a little bit, just with all the things going on in the NHL world, obviously you're very tied to the Arizona Coyotes. By the way, you do a great job on the radio broadcast, man.
Oh, thanks.
That's killer for you. I mean, multi-talented guy over here. He's got a #1 podcast in sports, and then he's doing radio color. I think you do such a great job on there, man. You bring such a unique voice to it. Obviously Arizona has, gone through a lot of ups and downs over the life of the franchise. I know you finished up a lot of your NHL career there and, made a lot of lifelong friends, including Shane Doan, who's a legend. But the franchise has had a lot of tough times. I mean, outside of all the Mitchell Miller stuff, which we touched on earlier, and you guys talked about it on the show. I don't know how much you want to dig into that. You did a great job addressing it. It's just a terrible situation all around. But the franchise itself, like, in your estimation, like, how healthy is it? They've had a lot of ownership problems. The league had to take over. Like, is it as simple as having a rink downtown? Like, would that solve a lot of the problems?
Yeah, definitely. I guess let's go back to the beginning. I'm very loyal to the Arizona Coyotes. They gave me, the Phoenix Coyotes at the time, they picked me up off waivers. I got to spend 5 wonderful years here, met some very, very nice people. You mentioned Shane Doan. I actually just went over to his place the other night. Had a great conversation with him. He was always a mentor, always there for me. And the list goes on of unbelievable people that I've, had the fortune of meeting while associated to the organization. And then when I retired and I wanted to get into media, they gave me my opportunity. So I am like forever loyal to them. Regarding the arena situation, that's of course a no-brainer. Ownership issues has always been a thing. They had ownership, ended up getting taken over by the league. Since then, a couple more owners, but right now they do have an owner who is very committed. They're trying to get things right. There has been some things as of late that, haven't necessarily looked as good on the franchise, but kind of similar to the whole COVID situation. Like they're trying to get it right. They truly are. They're trying to get a rink close to downtown Scottsdale area. They are trying to get more involved with the community, more diversity, get out there. They hired, Gutierrez is the first Latino president. And, you mentioned the Mitchell Miller situation, which was a very difficult one for a lot of people, and including the African Americans, the Black community, I'm sure they were very, very upset by what went down. I hope that they are able to turn things around here, because I've come to love this community in general. I understand where people from the outside would say, "Hey, ship them out. They can't figure it out. It's been long enough. They're kind of a black eye on the league." I have a different perspective. It might be one that's a little biased, but that's kind of where I am regarding everything. And I do think with this ownership group, I do think with the fact that they are starting another rebuild with Bill Armstrong coming in with new scouts, with Talkett and personnel, I think they're going to be able to turn around. So without trying to sound too, I guess, what's the word I'm looking
Being
for?
a homer?
Yeah, without trying to be too much of a homer, like, you guys are well aware that there is a place in my heart for this organization, given what they've given me. So I'm rooting for them. I hope that they are able to turn it around and I can jump on board. One last thing, as far as the media side of things, Todd Walsh, Tyson Nash, who was a former player who does television here, McConnell, who does great play-by-play on television. And the list goes on, including Bob Heathouse, who was my right-hand man on the radio. He does the play-by-play. In order to make my transition from playing and into media, he helped me out immensely. He made it very easy. So I just want to thank those people and once again, the organization for helping me get started on the post career.
Well, Biz, I can tell you, I do agree with you. I think Arizona's going the right way. They're starting to put it where they need to be going. They've got some pieces there that they can build their franchise around. They got, great people like you as ambassadors for their organization. So I want to thank you so much. I know we've gone a little bit longer than I told.
Oh, you're good, buddy.
I'd keep you tonight, but it's been absolutely fantastic, Biz, having you on. You may say it's not a big deal, but it was a hell of a big deal for us. So thank you so much for being the first guest on the Smoke Show, Biz. We love you. And, I'll be tuning in every week to you and the boys on Spittin' Chicklets.
Boys, thanks for all the tire pumps. Best of luck in your journey, Ryan, Jason. Thank you for having me on, and looking forward to getting back on with Austin on episode 100.
Absolutely, buddy.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks, Biz.
I appreciate it, Biz. Thanks for doing this. And just for the record, I think your nose looks spectacular, brother.
It's good when not when it's close up like this, though. It's
that's a badge
tough on the FaceTime. Good on the Zooms.
It's a badge of honor, brother. Wear it proud. I love it. Thanks.
Head of knuckles.
Thanks.
Head of knuckles.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Biz Nasty, guest number 1 on the Smoke Show. I'm through the roof.
Dark guy out. See you, boys.
Later.
See you, Biz. Thank you.
Oh, man.
I hope everybody enjoyed that, man. Like, just such a personable guy. Like, I mean, really, like, right off the top of the interview, like you talked about, like we all talked about with him there, Jason, there are a lot of negative detractors of anything that people do. You know that better than me even. I mean, your internet presence is far bigger than mine, and Biz dwarfs both of us. But despite that, like, he is such a humble dude and really does care about the image of the sport. I know there's a lot of stuff flying around, especially with the Mitchell Miller stuff. I know we couldn't dig into it a ton with Biz.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to the last Spittin' Chicklets if you want to hear Biz's in-depth thoughts on that. They really eloquently addressed it. I know there are a lot of detractors of Spittin' Chicklets because they're associated with Barstool. I understand that. But in terms of just person, Biz is top end. Like, for him to come on and have the confidence, really, for lack of a better word, to come on the first episode of this show and be that great with us and that gracious and wish us luck. It just shows a lot of the character of who he is. He cares about making hockey for everyone. I know there's plenty of debate about how hockey isn't for everyone. And, I would have a hard time arguing with people given some situations why they feel that way. But he cares. He cares about the betterment of this sport, the community around it. And man, what a thrill. Like, he was as gracious a guest as we could have hoped for, buddy.
Well, listen, I cannot say enough good things about Paul Bissonette. We started following each other on Twitter 4 years ago. I think I was always following him, but he started following me after I went viral.
What a thrill.
And there was an incident one night about, I want to say it was about 3 years ago, where some people came at me pretty hard. And I've got thick skin and I've got wide shoulders, and I can deal with a lot. This particular topic really was getting to me, and it was rubbing me the wrong way. And completely unprovoked, Biz sent me a message saying, "Hey, dude, love what you're doing. I see everything you're doing. Keep your chin up. Don't let these guys, the haters, get to you." And that just kind of kicked off a conversation that he didn't have to have with me. I'm nobody. I'm dark guy. I was with a painted face, right place at the right time. I was able to make it work for me. He owed me nothing, but he took the time to message me and make sure that I was powering through some of the nonsense that was going on that day. And he didn't have to do that. Ever since then, we've kept in constant contact. I've been talking to him on and off for 3 years, and he respects the little guys like us that do what we do because we love the game, we love the sport, and we're willing to grind to get somewhere. And I knew when I reached out to Biz and said, "Hey, man, me and my buddy Drury, we got this show, the Smoke Show, FHN Network. We're trying to do something here." I was pretty certain he'd be game on board and he'd be willing to help out, and he didn't disappoint. Love you, Biz.
Yeah, he's just an unbelievable dude. I love Spittin' Chicklets. Like I have such a blast listening to it. Particularly like all the stuff that they did after the Caps won the cup, like talking about Ovi and the fountains and everything. Like it's just so entertaining. It's great. I love listening to it when I'm trying to get work done or whatever. Like they and really, on top of Biz, Witt and Grinelli and RA, they all care about the sport too, and making the sport more welcoming. Like they really do. And there are a lot of reasons, I guess, to be negative in life. I find that online, it's not a good barometer of what people are actually like. And it's super easy to be negative and not do your research and not know what you're talking about and just blurt out opinions about people. I'd be cautious about doing that with somebody like Biz. He'll come at you if it's warranted. And that's another thing, right? If you're going to come at the guy, expect a bit of self-defense. But in general, like I've never met Biz face to face. That's the first time I've ever talked to him like live. I've exchanged some Instagram messages with him over the years, which is great. For him to be able to do that and come on this show and have a chat with two guys that are just trying to have some fun here. Full marks for Biz. I think he's just a great dude.
And hey, man, the retweet of the show out to his 1 million followers didn't hurt any either. So
no, thank you, Biz. We appreciate it. I'll have a Pink Whitney in your honor, brother.
Well, that's what when I saw he threw out a retweet there too, there and a couple comments, I'm like, I will say Spittin' Chicklets and Pink Whitney as many times as you want me to.
Send us stickers, man. I got a lot of room back here. Yeah, I love it. Nah, what a great guest, man. That was fantastic.
Well,
great.
We're looking at 10 after 8 here. There's a good possibility we're going to have our buddy Todd Shapiro join us as well. We're going to be doing a little interesting segment with Todd, maybe on a weekly basis, maybe on a bi-weekly basis. Todd's always got some interesting takes and topics when it comes to sports. Some of them are pretty bang on sometimes, no matter how outlandish they are, and some of them will just make you shake your head. But we're just reaching out for Todd there, see if he's going to be joining us tonight. In the meantime, we're looking at Monday Night Football, about to kick off. What do you think? Bucks and Giants, how bad do the Bucks put the beating to the Giants tonight?
I just can't see anything less than 35 plus points getting hung on the Giants at Meadowlands. My boy, Tommy Brady, It hurt me when he left my New England Patriots. I kind of knew it was coming. And to his credit, man, like on the Joe Thornton narrative, like he's proving a lot of people wrong. Like if Joe Thornton at 42 can play hockey half as good as Brady is playing football at 43, Leafs fans are going to be fired up. Like Tom has really turned the narrative around. Like he was not playing well the first couple weeks. Gronk looked slow. He wasn't catching any passes. All of a sudden he's come back alive. 2 straight weeks with a touchdown, baby, and multiple receptions.
Listen,
like
Gronk wasn't catching any passes because they weren't throwing him any.
Well, that's true. But I mean, when they tried to get him involved, he looked clunky, I guess is the best way I'd put it. Like it kind of pained me to watch him hobbling around. He's come alive, and Tom Brady has a lot of great weapons, man. Like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. That might be the best top to bottom receiving core in the league. They get Antonio Brown in there now out of nowhere. Like it's bizarre, but like they are going to destroy the New York Football Giants.
So I just thought, I had a thought of what Brady and Gronk and the Bucks were doing. And it made me realize I forgot to ask Biz Nasty the most selfless question ever. I want to know how I get on the sandbagging invitational list.
You know what? That's so funny you said that because I wanted to ask him off the top. You could message him, man. He'll get back to you. But I wanted to ask him, did he sandbag that day that they did that video with Crosby? Was it actually a sandbag? Like, come clean and honest. I believe him, but like, I wanted to give him a platform here to come clean and say, yeah, I sandbagged them. I don't think he did, but like that video, if you haven't seen it, is hilarious of Whit Dog and him playing golf with who'd they play with? Crosby and McKinnon. And they rinsed them on the back nine. It's so funny.
I was going to put him on the spot and say that he's got to get Dark Guy down there for the Sandbagger Invitational. And I forgot up until just now when I started thinking, hey, Toddy Tickles.
Yo, am I on?
This.
Am I on?
Oh,
am
you're
on?
on. You're on,
Can you hear
Toddy.
me? Is this live?
It's live, buddy.
This is live. And actually,
wow.
I wouldn't have had that intro any other way. Welcome to the show, Todd Shapiro, my former co-host on TSN 1050, The Dark Guy Show. Todd, I love you, buddy. I'm glad you were able to make it. Welcome to the show, bud. I see you're loving life up at the cottage up north.
Hey, I got news for you.
And what's that?
Fuck terrestrial radio. You can't say that, right? When we're doing
We can't really say it on here either, but
oh, you can't? Okay.
We were going to try and keep it PG, but there's always an edit button for these types of things. We are streaming live right now all over Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube.
That's great. You guys look good. You guys look good. You look really good, both of you.
I appreciate that. So, Todd, have you come up with the name? Have you settled on a name for your weekly segment? What are we going to call this?
Well, I still like the hot toddy hot takes, but I'm getting old, so hot toddy's like out of the window now. Like 5 years ago, maybe.
Come on.
The lighting in here is terrible too. Hang on, let me fix the lighting. What do you think? You guys give me suggestions.
Well, I don't know. I liked Shapiro shots with Shapiro or Shapiro shots. Shapiro's hot shots.
I'm still more into the hot toddy hot takes, man. I think you're looking good over there, brother. You got the fireplace going. This is a seductive appearance on the show.
He's got the bed laid out in the background there. I'm worrying where this is going.
Yeah, I'm scared here, buddy.
It's just you should be. You guys both should be. Everyone should be. Everyone. When the bed's ready like that in the fire, I just turned off Barry White.
And he does have the vino going too. So
not bad, buddy.
I'm actually doing work, man. I've never been busier. I've never been more stressed, and I've never been busier. Part of me misses the radio because I'm doing a whole new thing now. But it's stressful, dude. It's stressful. Life's stressful right now.
Well, Todd, and we can dive into that a little bit before we get into some of your hot takes. So, you took a leap of faith, 13, 14 years in the radio industry. You kind of had the world at your fingertips there. Everybody knows who Todd Shapiro is. You took a leap of faith to leave your career behind to become the CEO of oh my God, I'm not going to remember it now.
You nailed it. Red Light Holland.
Yeah, Red Light Holland. I was about to call it Red Light District. I'm like, no, that's not what it's called.
No, that's Todd's bedroom right now.
Hey,
Red Light Holland, CEO. You're looking at getting into the microdose world, working on getting things legalized, and basically you're trying to change the world. And I find that to be quite admirable, man. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you're doing there and what Red Light's doing?
Yeah, much love, Jason Dark Guy. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, listen, I worked in radio actually 20 years, and there's a lot of anxiety when it comes to performing. A lot of anxiety when you got to be on daily, and I've sort of, one of the things I noticed, especially in these types of platforms, and even getting close with you, Jason, and others, really was, a lot of people were going through this. A lot of people were going through mental stress and all these kind of things, and I kept doing deep dives on what potentially could help people. And, listen, I anecdotally can tell you what's helping me, but I can't make any medical claims as a company. And one of the things that I kept reading about was psilocybin and the effects of magic mushrooms. And in our case at Red Light Holland, we've established a company within the Netherlands where they have the magic truffle as a legal product. And again, I can't make the medical claims, but if you learn about the potential benefits of psilocybin, you hear many anecdotal responses of increased clarity, increased focus, connectivity, less anxiety, really just living in the moment more and enjoying life more. And a lot of this world right now, it feels like a lot of people aren't enjoying their lives. And I sort of got very passionate about this. Of course, listen, part of me is capitalistic too. I'm not going to lie. We're a publicly traded company. TRIP is our trading symbol. And, I want to put out the best product available. And I want to hear from our end consumers as to why they microdose. Why is it more empathy? Again, is it connectivity, et cetera? And so we are legally selling a product currently within the Netherlands. We're in like 8 what are called smart shops right now. We sell online at imicrodose.nl. And listen, who knows? It's a very early stage company. It's a very speculative industry and very new, of course. And we're hoping that maybe one day other markets will open up to explore recreational use of magic, either mushrooms or psilocybin or truffles, whatever it may be. And then, of course, we want to support the science and medical research that goes into this to hopefully prove out these theories of the potential benefits for maybe even solving this mental health crisis that's going on.
Well, when you look at somewhere like the Netherlands, Amsterdam specifically, and they've always been kind of ahead of the curve on what they've been willing to try or legalize and those types of things. Has there been any movement so far on bringing it to North America or anything like that?
Yeah, interestingly enough, on the ballots tomorrow within the United States, there's a couple of states that are exploring one decriminalization, like DC, Washington, DC is looking at decriminalizing psychedelics, including psilocybin. And in Oregon, I believe it's a little bit differently, that they're actually looking to, on the vote, you can vote yes to, if I get it right, it's basically saying that they will approve medical use for guided sort of therapies and therapeutic sessions based on using psilocybin. And we're seeing a lot of that too. Retreats, maybe you saw the Gwyneth. I know you love Gwyneth Paltrow, Dark Guy. Maybe you saw her in Goop, and she was doing her Jamaican retreat there. And you're hearing a lot of these guided therapy sessions. And listen, for us, we're really focusing on smaller dosages, responsible use through education and information, people going in very slowly, just microdosing psilocybin. But yeah, we're going to hear a lot of news about this stuff. And it's, listen, again, we're at the forefront of, I think, something that's going to be really with us for the next few decades, if not, forever. And we're really proud as a company to have an early kind of jump in the market here. And we'll look to see what other countries eventually open up.
So the one problem I have here is I've been checking my email regularly over the last couple months. And I haven't seen my shares that were being sent over.
Yeah.
I don't know if it went to the junk file or
yeah.
I don't know
You know, I tried to get you on, and my board didn't approve you. It was really weird. They're like that guy. No. Listen, you know, it's interesting being a publicly traded company. I will say has its stresses, and you know, you'd like to think that you're not always judged on the day to day based on a stock price, but about where your potential is and growing the business and what we can do. And listen, I'm just very fortunate to be doing it. I love it, and I'm really looking forward to the future because most importantly, we as a company and me personally, you said earlier, like I have a mandate. I hope we can prove out these theories because I want to help people. And the older you get, I got 2 young children. I want to make a better future for them. And listen, I've had my fair share of fun and craziness and zaniness, and even times like, way out there from the radio background. And as you get older, you get a little bit more empathetic. You just want to make sure people are doing well. So it's like the right time and the right place for it. But we're supposed to talk some hockey, right?
Well, we're here to talk about anything that you want to talk about. Hot Toddy's Hot Takes is your segment.
I just want to add though, I'm really happy that both of you are doing this.
Thank you. Buddy.
This to me is, and Jason, you know this, man, like right when we sort of ended the TSN stuff, I always said, and you went on a little bit past I did, but I always said, you are so engaging. Both of you have a great camaraderie and great reach, and go and use that reach. Go and make something of it. Like, look what Dave Portnoy did with Barstool Sports. Like, anyone can go and take an attempt to make this happen and make it happen and kick ass while doing it. And by the way, it's your passion, both of yours passion. So have fun doing it. And as long as you keep putting out content, people are going to follow you. So I'm looking forward to watching it grow. And I'm very grateful to be a part of it.
Well, we're happy to be a part of it. And I appreciate the kind words, Todd. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I guess TSN thought I couldn't do it without you, buddy. So
listen, I'll tell you something about TSN, a little fact here. So 4 or 5 years ago, I pitched to them doing the Bar Down podcast. I went to them, I called up people I knew there, and I said, I want to do a show based on your website called Bar Down. And it never ever materialized for me doing the Bar Down podcast, but it ended up being the Dark Guy and Todd Shapiro show. So a few years later. So you never know when they'll call you back and, kind of work with you there. The thing though, I will tell you, they're doing a Bar Down podcast right now. Like I have old Bar Down podcast IDs that were made for me from the TSN voice guy. So I guess what I'm getting at is, you never know when something you think of will happen later on when it's not you. So not only did they not want you, Dark Guy, they didn't want me either to do that. So, but that was my idea. I will concretely say anyone watching like the Bar Down podcast that's going on right now, I literally have IDs that they made for me to do, and it never materialized into a show, but I went and tried to pitch it. And I pitched it hard because I thought it was a great idea. So anyway, long story short, isn't it weird, even though because it's October, November, isn't it weird not watching the start of hocky right now? Isn't that a weird kind of thing?
It's torturous, buddy. I can't believe it. Like, it's the weirdest sensation. Like the whole virus thing, like you said, Todd, and I mean, you've given us so much love, and I mean, you were super gracious to me when I stepped in with Jason, and I grew up listening to you, not to make you feel old or anything.
No, I'm old, man.
It's still Hot Toddy's Hot Takes. I stand by that. But I mean, we're really happy for you and everything you're doing as well. But off your point, yeah, it's extremely strange to not be watching hockey right now. It's like a little bit of a bummer, and there's no clear answer as to when it's going to come back.
Yeah. Well, Todd, one of the big things, and I know this was something that you had some opinions about, and I actually loved your tweet the other day of the tennis ball, saying the OHL's new puck. Now, we touched on this a little bit earlier in the show with Biz Nasty. I know I wanted to talk to you about it. It's Hot Toddy's Hot Takes. So what are you thinking about the circus is the announcement of no hitting, then Ford coming back and saying, no, there's going to be hitting. How do you have an OHL with no body contact?
Yeah, let's be honest here. I told you earlier about my empathetic ways with age and growing up and wanting, to take care of humankind and people really doing better for themselves. When it comes to sports, I think it's a different story. You have grown men and grown women who choose to play these games and choose to play them the way that the rules dictate, and the rules have always dictated. And when it comes to men's sports, you know, and men's OHL hockey leading up to the NHL, where we've seen so many incredible OHL stars become NHL world superstars, essentially winning us Stanley Cups and winning us gold medals, part of that game is hitting. And the idea that you would remove that from a game, whether it's trying to set a precedent for how the future pro league should be one day, or even now taking away from their training of what hitting should be, is absolutely friggin' ridiculous in my mind. You know, you don't have people going into the sport going, oh, well, one day I don't have to hit. And don't get me wrong, I don't want dirty hitting. I don't want cheap shots, but I want some good, clean body checks. I want to watch some hockey. And I don't think hockey should change. And I don't know if it's because of COVID, which maybe they're saying is an excuse, or if it's because of kind of the cancel culture, you know, perfectly politically correct new world we live in. When it comes to sports, you got to stick to the rules of sports. And if you don't like those rules of sports, guess what? You can go lawn bowling tomorrow. Like, there's other things you can do without hitting. So, you know, I just think it's crazy. And don't get me wrong, I got crushed, dude, in just beer league. I have a torn clavicle to this day with a huge bone sticking out. I took a guy actually looked like you, Jason. Now, come to think of it, completely nailed me, clean hit. I wasn't prepared for it. And my shoulder just kind of collapsed on me, and it sucked. I tried to fight the guy with one arm. It's pretty cool. But anyway, you know, these are the risks we take in any league of the games where there's hitting, and we know that going into it. And there was no hard feelings on my end. The guy nailed me with a clean body check. I had to accept it.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the, you know, maybe ulterior motive to this. And I am not a conspiracy theorist by any means. But the more I thought about it, I started to really believe that, you know what, this has nothing to do with COVID-19. Or somewhere, some number crunching hockey analyst who never played the game, mathlete, I guess we're going to call them, who wants to see hitting and fighting out of hockey. Maybe somebody made a donation somewhere along the line to somebody's campaign or to somebody's writing or whatever the case may be. You cannot convince me this has anything to do with hockey. The more I think about it, to me, this seems like a group behind the scenes that's using this opportunity, this global pandemic, as a massive opportunity to push their agenda, and that's to get the physicality out of some of the sports.
Listen, man, I am a bit of a conspiracy theorist. I don't mind saying that. And I think that, you know, it's a great excuse to use COVID right now.
Yes.
It's a ridiculous excuse. You're in change rooms with guys. You're playing. You know, you're playing across from them. Everyone's spitting all over the place. You're coughing. Like, how does a body check all of a sudden make you not have 6 feet of contact, which we've been told to have? So, you know, what's the longer term vision of hockey? Is it to protect athletes? Is it to protect them from, you know, some concussion syndromes, et cetera? Is this their way of saying admission, even though the NHL has never admitted to that kind of stuff? And all you got to do is speak to Daniel Carcillo about that and sort of their response to him. But I mean, listen, I'm all for protecting players, but I'm on the same, you know, and I hope it doesn't seem hypocritical, on the same level. I'm like, you still got to keep hitting in the game. That's what makes the game the game. There's just ways to hit where you're not doing cheap hits and you're also not punching a guy unconsciously like a Bertuzzi, you know? So there's just ways to, I think, make this happen. And by the way, it's better hockey that way because you need defense.
Well, you know what? This is what I'm going to say. Everybody knows what they're getting into when they pursue their NHL career. You know, maybe you started playing hockey as a kid and you didn't know, but the information is out there now. By the time you're 13, 14 years old, you know what a concussion is. You know what the risks are. You're being educated now. People are making their own decisions. Who are we? Who is culture to say, hey, you know what? I need to protect you. When you're the one making the decision, if you want to play hockey and you know there's fighting in hockey, there's body contact in hockey, who am I to say you shouldn't do that? You look at all of the ex-fighters, a lot of guys that have spoken about concussions and stuff. Yeah, there's a couple who said, if I could go back and if I had the information back then that I do now, maybe I wouldn't have done this. But 90% of them say, I'd do it again. I made a lot of money. I played a game I love. So I'll never understand the cancel culture and everybody saying, I know what's better for your life.
Yeah, it's one of those risk reward things, right? Like I think that there could be arguments that are sound on both sides. Like, do I think that all sports that are contact sports can do better in terms of protecting players from repeated concussions? Yeah, I still think that there's some ways to go in terms of that. But I think that, you can't also argue on the other side that it hasn't improved. And the real improvement is what you just said, Jason, the research and the information out there. Concussions are a real thing. They can happen. You can get your bell rung, and you shouldn't get up and try and grit through the next shift when your ears are ringing. Obviously, that's not a good thing. It's just one of those things where, again, you said everyone kind of knows what they're getting into, especially at the pro level. Like, no one gets drafted into the NHL, shows up at training camp and is like, oh, we're hitting people now. And like, knowledge improves over years. Like, we know now that it probably wasn't healthy that, Maurice Richard and those guys were smoking cigarettes on the bench. That probably wasn't healthy. But like, at the time, it's just what they did. But then we learned things, and they didn't drink, 12 packs of Coca-Cola in the intermission anymore. Like, you learn things. And I just don't think that it's incumbent upon the government to, certainly I agree with calling for better measures in terms of health, and especially concussions, which is the hot thing in sports. It has been for a while. Certainly. Yeah, I agree with that. But just me personally, and like, if other people disagree, fine. I mean, this is an opinion. If they get rid of body contact in hockey, like, I don't think I can watch the sport anymore, because part of what it is an entertainment factor. And people that don't like sports that I'm friends with will often, ask me, like, how come this guy is getting paid X amount of dollars to do this? Because people are watching. If no one watched hockey, Austin Matthews wouldn't be making $11.5 million a year. He'd do it recreationally and probably be a banker or something. But the fact that millions of people tune into the NFL, soccer, NASCAR, people crashing cars at 200 miles an hour, because millions of people tune in, the companies and leagues that run them make millions of dollars, and the players get a slice of that pie, as they should, as compensation. It would essentially be like if movie theaters all of a sudden were like, we have to shut down because the screen is so big. Remember when your parents used to tell you if you sat too close to the screen, it would screw your eyes up, which is a wives' tale, apparently, by the way. It would be like, we're shutting movie theaters down worldwide because the screen's too big and it's hurting people's eyes. Do you know how many people would lose their mind if they just shut down no more movies? No more movies.
Well, and to be honest, Ryan, sorry to interrupt, but like your point there of like movies, like, take that to every other sport. So now go to the UFC and go, if you're training for a UFC fight, well, you can't strike in the face. If you're doing a, extreme game sport and you're a BMXer, or snowboarder, you can't do the flip in college to get to the pro leagues. Like, imagine trying to tell someone now you can't do something, but in the pro leagues you have to do it to be successful. So like, that is gonna kill the entire competition out of the game. And by the way, my hot take, boys, before I forget, I don't know if you know this, but I have good word, like real good authority, that this is a hot take here, by the way, that William Nylander's camp has asked the Maple Leafs if he could go back down to the OHL to play hockey. That's
yeah, I heard that too, man.
Yeah. He's dying to get back down where there's no contact. He's like, that's a league for me.
Todd, I'm going to tell you, I'm glad you brought his name up, because if you didn't, I was going to. When we had the Dark Guy and Todd Shapiro show, William Nylander was a hot topic many episodes, and unfortunately, Yours and I's show was no longer last year when Nylander started figuring out how to put the puck in the net on a more consistent basis, and I watched and witnessed some of the people coming back at you for things that you had said on our show about Nylander, and it was tough to watch because all your words were being twisted around. All you ever said about Nylander a lot of times was, you know what, he made too much money for what he's doing. If he scored X amount of goals, I'd be happy with the money he was making. And everybody was coming at you saying, oh, does Nylander still suck? And I'm like, he never really said Nylander sucks. He just said for the amount of money he's getting paid, he wants more production.
And I agree.
No, and that was the thing. Ryan and Dark, I was hard on Nylander. I thought he got paid too much money for his production. I also thought that the Babcock Nylander fit was terrible. And I made that very clear that they would never win a Stanley Cup with Babcock or Nylander. And I still believe that. Like, I still don't think Nylander's a Stanley Cup type of winning guy. And I hope he proves me wrong. And I always said, I go, when it comes to Nylander, I go, guy's got all the talent in the world, but does he have all the grit in the world? And I still am a firm believer, back to body checking and all this kind of stuff, that, sports are about grit. There's about, there's a level there that you can't measure, a level of determination and perseverance that you just go and get and have for some reason, and for Nylander, to me, I like the guy too. I met him in person, super nice guy. I get he has all the pressures in the world. I don't think, listen, super cool dude in real life and, glamorous looking guy, fashionable guy, all this kind of stuff. I'm sure he wants to win, but can you kick it into another level to win? And listen, the Leafs so far have proved they can't do that. And Nylander is a part of that, team. And we've seen what they've done in the offseason, bringing in Simmons, re-signing Spezza. Who's the other? Didn't they bring someone else on recently who's tougher? Who's the other defenseman?
Bogosian.
Exactly.
Brody.
Tougher dude. So, they're starting to do like basically what we used to talk about, Dark Guy, on the show. Like, you got to bring in some veteran leaders. You got to bring in some guys who want to win this thing. They're at the end of their careers. They want to win it. And there's leaders now. So, maybe, and Marleau wasn't quite the leader either, because he was just, not the tough guy either. We got tough guys. We got a team now that's going to prove to these young kids who made a lot of money so far that if you don't take it to that extra level, you're never going to win the prize. And the prize is not easy to win. It's really not easy to win. And listen, I hope everyone proves me wrong. I really do. But as long as he's not playing in the OHL, because that's a leap for him.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, we talked about this a little earlier, just with all the additions they made and the changes they made, Todd, to the roster. And I mean, like you guys said, I know that Nylander was kind of a guy that you wouldn't pick on, I don't think, but I didn't think that the criticism was unfair. I mean, I agreed with you when he got paid $6.9 million at the time. That looked like a pretty harsh overpayment, and he played horrifically in that half year that he played. Last year, offensively, he played really, really well, but against Columbus, and again, we talked about this earlier, I don't expect him to turn into Eric Lindros and railroad people. That's just not who he is. But you need him to kind of just have that battle level. Again, with Jason, I've compared the Leafs to my Capitals over all those years of failing. And I look at a guy in the same kind of mold of Nylander in Yevgeny Kuznetsov. When Washington won the Stanley Cup, he went to a level that we haven't seen since, unfortunately. But that, he led the playoffs in scoring, but he was going every night. There's no way the Caps win the cup without that guy. And he was gritting it up and getting in scrums and cross-checking guys. It's not about turning into something you're not. It's just about that compete level that you raise within yourself and go, I want to win so desperately, I'm going to beat this guy out of the corner and tuck one upstairs. And if that ever clicks for him, my God, look out, because he's such a talented player.
Oh, yeah. You're right. All the talent. And look at Point on Tampa Bay, right? That'd be a good example, wouldn't it?
Oh, does that kid ever grind? He is an unbelievable player. Jeez,
and isn't he getting a little bit less even than Nylander?
Right now.
Yeah.
He is going to cash in. He is going to cash in. Julian Brisebois better get the pen ready.
No, absolutely.
No, but he only signed last year for the extension, I believe. Unless I'm wrong. I haven't really.
It was only for 3 years, though. So they've got him for 2 more years. And then, look out. I can't wait.
It's unreal.
He gets paid. He's going to get $10-11 million, no problem.
Well, Tony, I want to say, you know what? I appreciate you joining us and hopping on and doing this segment with us every week. I know that once we really get into the thick of things, Hot Toddy's Hot Takes is going to be something everybody's going to be tuning in to watch, because we know you're going to have some great opinions, some controversial opinions, and some that are just going to make people go, oh.
I love it.
What the hell did this guy say, and why did he say it? You know why? Because he's hot. Hot
Yes.
Toddy. Hot Toddy's Hot Takes. Ryan,
Spicy.
Dark Guy, I love you guys. More
Love you too,
information
brother.
if you want on the company. It's Red Light Holland. It's redlighttruffles.com. And we're CSE publicly traded. Obviously, I can't give financial advice. Do your due diligence, but TRIP is our ticker symbol. And listen, I want the world to be a better place, boys. I also want hockey, though, to kind of remain the same, if that makes sense. You know, let's enjoy
100%.
hockey.
It does make sense,
Yeah,
dude.
and I can't wait for it to start up again when and if it does. But hey, kudos. So you got to give kudos to both NBA and the NHL. They got us through tough times. They made it work. You know, it worked. It wasn't the same, but it worked, and it was kind of cool. And then, you know, now we'll have a new season starting in weird dates, but at least it'll be starting eventually. So to get us through these weird times, these odd, peculiar times. I love you, boys. This is neat.
Todd, thank you so much. Can't wait to do this every week with you. Everybody, Todd Shapiro, CEO Todd Shapiro.
Crazy.
With Hot Toddy's Hot Takes. Thanks, brother. We'll talk to you next week.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
Todd.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Shapiro, man.
My
That guy
brother, my brother from another mother.
he has so much energy, and like, I'm serious. Like, I remember being a kid and listening to him when he was on with Dean, obviously, like back in the glory days and whatnot. Like he is a special guy, and there's a reason he could have just kept going in radio or media for sure. Obviously, he's got this new project he's passionate about, and be sure to check that out if that's something you want to check out. Obviously, with Red Light Holland, super stoked for him to, you know, try something new. But there's a reason he, you know, was in the industry for so long, and was a guy that, you know, for myself coming up in the industry as a kid in college, was somebody that, like, you know, everybody knew who he was. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And there's a reason. It's because he's an entertaining guy. Yeah, you don't always agree with what he says. You're not going to agree with everything we say, for sure, but that's the fun of it, man. That's what makes sports great, and radio great. And Todd is just he's one of the good ones, man.
Oh, Todd's a beauty, man. And I can relate to him so much, especially when you look at how he got into the radio business, and some of the early years of what he did, and some of the content that was out there with the I Am Toddy's Tickles persona. He had a reputation that he needed to shed to move forward in his
For sure.
career. And he was able to persevere through that, and convince people and show people that he was more than I Am Toddy Tickles, that was doing a lot of goofy stuffs. And you know, I remember one bit where he had dressed up in like a diaper and was walking around in downtown Toronto. And
I remember that. Yeah.
you know, like he had done so much to break into the industry that he had a lot to overcome to keep moving forward, and to become that the host of the Todd Shapiro show that was on Sirius XM for so long. And kudos to him. And I just relate to him, because I had to, in a sense, do a little bit of the same thing. I had to get people to see past that original image of Dark Guy that I self-admit wasn't all that flattering. Face paint, beard.
Right.
I kind of, you know, I could see how some people made their assumptions about me based off that image. But I was able to show people that I was more than that. I was able to show people I actually know the game of hockey, and I was able to persevere. And I pick up a lot of that from Todd. He's taught me so much in the industry. You know, he helped me break through into the industry to our TSN show. I got nothing but love for Todd. He'll always be a brother to me, and so excited he's agreed to hop on here with Hot Toddy's Hot Takes every week.
Yeah, it's going to be great, man. Like, he's just so much fun to listen to. One of the all-time great rant givers.
Absolutely.
And you know this, dude, I'm pretty infamous among my friend group for getting on a rant. And I just want the viewers and future listeners of the show to know that there will be some high-end rants. I take some notes from what Todd was able to do. I can definitely get on a rant, and that's fun though, man. Like, I don't expect everybody to agree with what we say on here. And just like, you know, a lot of people didn't agree with Todd or certainly things he did. Like he pushed buttons, but like that's entertainment, right? Like, you know, there's going to be a lot of people that don't like what you do. And you know, even how you and I met, like I can certainly count myself among the detractors when I saw all these things happening to you, and I was like, what is going on with this guy? And then I met you and was just like, this guy is an incredible human being. And like, it's a lesson for me that I've taken forward from that, because we become such good friends. And it's a lesson, you know, for people to carry through their day to day. Like, you can't encapsulate what makes a person from one interaction or social media post or viral meme or whatever it is. You can't. And you know, with social media and people able to be louder than ever 24/7, it's very easy to just crap on people that we don't know. And I'm guilty of it too. I do it sometimes too. But you know, just think about that. Like, there's more to a person than, you know, Toronto Maple Leaf face paint and a dart hanging out of their mouth in a funny picture. And I think you've proven that. And a lot of people have, you know, had to eat crow pie, you know, just from, you know, how well you've shown yourself to the hockey community over the last number of years. Like we don't get, and again, thanks to Biz Nasty for jumping on here, our first ever guest. You don't get people like that on your show unless people like Biz take you seriously.
Yeah.
And that's a statement in and of itself, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Something I'm very proud of. But on that note, we will wrap it up for episode 1 of the Smoke Show here on the FHN network. Huge shout out to Paul Bissonette, Biz Nasty, making this an epic success, in my opinion.
What a guy.
Huge thank you to Ryan for, you know, agreeing to be my co-host, and we're going to take the world by storm here. The podcast is always streaming live Monday, 7 o'clock. It streams live on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. All you have to do is search FHN Network when you get on any of those. It'll be available as a podcast afterwards. iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, basically any single streaming provider you can think of.
All the big boys.
Huge thank you to Matt, our producer, FHN Network, for reaching out. Tyler Fines, Matt Huddle, having the faith in the Dark Eye brand to get this going, bringing us on. And another huge shout out to Dry County. That music you were listening to on the opening credits, those are my boys, the Dry County band. They are absolutely off the chain. That was Hey Hey Cheers from Cowboy Up. If you don't know them, check them out, download their stuff. You're going to love it. You're going to be thankful I told you. But until next week, always remember, where there's smoke, there's fire.